Good afternoon, all the participants, and good morning to our distinguished guest today, Miss Francesca Sartori. She is head of environment and responsible AI leadership at Nokia. What is more important that today is our 14th webinar in this series of 6G Tech Talk, and we have covered a lot of technical aspects. However, sustainability, which has been the important one of the most important when it's come to 6G, because even the 5G sustainable afterthought, whereas in 6G we are thinking that it will be by design itself. So it's an honor for Bharat 6G Alliance, which is a research alliance from India. It's a member-driven organizations from academia, startups, MSMEs, TSPs, and we have collaborations with most of the world regional alliances, starting with the 6G, Next G Alliance, and then 6G IA, 6G Forum, XGMF, 5G ACIA, 6G Brazil, and we have just will be joining very soon by 6G IF of Taiwan, GSMA, 16G, and GTI. So, welcome you all to this exciting webinar. The speaker today, she don't need any introduction because I think sustainability covers the all. Whereas I think you can see that she has been the head of Nokia itself and global. So I am sure that she will cover the aspects. We have certain questions also as a part of this event. So those who want to raise the questions, they can write during the in the public chat, which will be taken after 45 minutes, 45 minutes of presentations by our expert. So this will be the format. With this, I invite Ms. Sartori to take up the presenter's right. I think Asta, please give her the rights, and we'll just again come back once your presentation is over. So over to you, and all the best, and thank you for today's speech. Welcome.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Okay, let's see. Able to share my screen. Excellent. Good. Ready to go. So thanks for being here. Today, we will look at 6G from different angles. As just mentioned, we are focusing on the sustainability aspect. Last week, we had a colleague of mine, Sari Nielsen, to present more on the technology part. But because 6G, as I said, is not as another G, so it's not just a classical evolution from the previous generation, it's worth to deep dive a little bit on this specific aspect. So I would like to cover the next 40 minutes, more or less, these four areas, just a little bit to set the scene, make a kind of a time travel, to understand which are the minimum requirements that are trigger the sustainability principles, and then some recommendation and call for actions. So let's travel a little bit forward. So don't think about 2026. Don't think about 2030. 6G is much beyond. So we need to think about which could be the scenarios, which are the technology environment in which 6G will be deployed. So you may be familiar with the 6G roadmap, right? So it's happening 2030, 2035. So in the next decade. And we have been seeing already with the 5G that the ICT, the mobile technology are no more isolated in their bubble, but they are start interacting with many other new emerging technology that they have their own life, their own roadmap. And what we realized that between 2030, 2040, 2045, when 6G will be the predominant technology, the 6G, we need to start interacting with this network cloud continuum. So we need to have this fluidity in the architecture between edge, cloud, and in the net next to the users, or far from the users, data center, or different level of transportation, different level of digital infrastructure. So this flexibility need to be incorporated in the 6G as well. Then we have the satellite, the space communication. We've been doing satellite for a while, right? It's very well known state technology, but the satellite is there, and the technology mobile network is there in the other side. With the 6G, these two big domains, they start interacting and they are collaborating. They will be complementary. That are two different requirements in the two different places that need to be having some contact point. So that is another area where we need to be incorporated in 6G. Quantum. Quantum is it's understandable that it will be a key major driver. Of course, it's not around the corner, but we need to design a technology that is able to cope with the quantum technology in terms of computing capability. So we may have a boost because of this, but also the possible, I say, side effect. I don't say threat, but it's a side effect because having quantums, the security and the privacy have a different level of attention. And the last but not least, the sustainability technology. So as mentioned, the sustainability area become more and more and more on top of the daily discussion. And this need to be incorporated in the 6G approach as well. So you see 6G is now expanding and interacting with the many different other technologies that are not telco driven. And why? Because of course it's happening in the, as I said, time travel in the next 15 years, at least a span over 15 years. Because today we are in the specification. I assume that you are familiar with our 3GPP timeline. So 3GPP is specifying 6G as we speak. And we plan to have the start initial rollout by 2030, 31, depend of the ecosystem, the device availability and so on, the frequency options. But let's say starting from 2030 on. And we may assume that we may have a kind of volume in 3, 4, 5 years, 2035. So almost 10 years from now. So you see, 6G is going to happen 2030. And then, of course, it will stay for at least another 5, 6, 10 years. So we go beyond 2040. That is the time travel that we need to project ourselves over those decades. And of course, this is something for 6G, but is not isolated as we just learned. We need to see what is happening in parallel. And as you see, there are, starting from the famous Paris Agreement, there are a very, let's say, wide roadmap for reaching the net zero target. What does it mean, net zero target? So the ideally is to have an industries, a community, an economy that doesn't produce carbon emission, almost 90%. So at that there are, of course, you cannot do overnight. So this is why you see you have a decade in front of us, and that there are minimum intermediate milestones. So 2030, 2035, 40, and so on and so on. And each different country's market has different common targets, but then all of them, they have that specific goals. So to reduce the carbon emission. And 6G is exactly happening in this, let's say, stream. So 6G must contribute and collaborate and be a key player in helping the society, the industries to reduce the carbon emission. Carbon emission cannot be in the opposite directions. And if we focus in India, also India has a very clear milestone. So we have in 2030 already an initial target due to this draft national telecom policy, where they aim to have a reduction of a 30% footprint, even the introduction on renewable energy. But then even more stronger, by 2035, we have committed, so India government has committed in front of the UN climate body to reach 47 emission versus the GDP. So you see, there are a strong trend also as a national body in India to incorporate some actions, some strategy in order to go toward that directions. So in this context, we're going to design 6G, implement 6G, use 6G, and helping the other industries. Now, I want to ask you a question. Of course, you cannot answer, but I try to be a rhetorical question. So this summer has been one of the most hottest summer ever. And I'm pretty sure that each of you has experienced a very nice experience to enter in a car being under the sun for a couple of hours. So in this context, how would you like to have an air conditioning? So do you want to try your car and then realize that you need to have air conditioning? So you go aftermarket and you put your air conditioning on top because you realize that indeed you've been warned that there is a very hot temperature, you didn't believe, and then after having a couple of very nasty journey, you decided to have on top of your car the air conditioning? Or would you prefer having an air conditioning system fully integrated, embedded in your car that is absolutely optimized, and then all the system will be around that air conditioning? That is the different approach that we need to consider for sustainability. Sustainability has been considered a kind of nice to have. Now we need to change approach, really 180 degrees from this post-market. Okay, I will do something sustainability just when someone will ask me and I need to do it, or I design my strategy, incorporate the requirement in order to deliver by design, starting from the day zero, a more sustainable product and system. That is the mindset that we need to have. And in the next, let's say 20 minutes to 30 minutes, I try to explain to you how we may need to refine tune some point within the 6G definition. Okay, 6G. As I said, I will not present the 6G. I assume that you have an initial understanding. However, 6G, as you see, has these 5 major fundamental pillars. So need to be performant, no doubt. No one is going to deploy something new that is worse than the previous generation. So need to be performing, need to be efficient, need to have a new technology, need to create some growth. Business as usual. Intelligent. Okay, that is already new because we have as AI native. So we have AI everywhere in any condition. Then this everywhere is something that we will touch later. But in principle, AI is cross all over the layer, cross all over the network element. It's really AI native. So we will have a network that is able to take some decision proactively and to have a forecast is not more static, it's much more dynamic. Sustainable, then we'll talk later. Cyber resilient and security, that exactly because the more we go ahead, the more the communication infrastructure become predominant in any single action. So we must be resilient, secure, protect the privacy, in particular for the future, maybe quantum technology coming, and transformative. So in 5G has already given some steps toward these transformative actions. So because from the classical consumer-based and connectivity-based, we extend toward the industries and not more consumer per se, but even having enterprises. But in these cases, because of AI, because of different other elements, we want to have 6G that can enable new business model. Not just the connectivity, but to create something that we don't know yet. But it's there capable to allow to invent new business model. So that is a transformative factor. So these are the 5 pillars based on which all the infrastructure of 6G is going to be built. And then, of course, now we focus on the sustainability part. When I talk to someone about sustainability and they ask, okay, what do you know about sustainability? First answer is energy reductions, energy saving. absolutely fine. That is clear. No one is asking you to have a technology that is burning energy or is consuming more just for free. Absolutely not. That is okay, but that is just the tip of the iceberg, of sustainability iceberg. But I don't want to skip it. I would like to pay attention also this important innovation coming with the 6G that has been based on the very strong fundamental already on 5G Advanced. But these features introduced in 5G Advanced are this aftermarket air conditioning, because of 5G initially didn't have the sustainability as one of the major targets. We introduced in 5G Advanced starting from release 18 because of the market demand and the different cost, the energy cost increase and so on. So we had to add some mechanism in order to reduce the energy when you don't have a load, or we have a very minimum load, so the famous near 0 watt at zero load. So if you don't have any traffic, why do you have energy consumption? So of course, and then of course the other level is to optimize or maximize the number of bits per watt. So without everything, any actions, without impacting the quality, the network and the performances. Okay, performance, absolutely. So there are different levels. You may have the single at the cells level, so you switch on or switch off cells based on the traffic. You may work on C level, on the signaling. So instead of having, and then you start, because of this, you're moving from always on network to always available network, meaning that always on, you have always this signaling, even though you don't have any traffic, you don't have any users, you don't have any devices, while you say, okay, I make the network available whenever is needed. So it makes no sense to keep everything light when there is no traffic. So there's been change the way we are delivering the signaling and all the different system information based on triggered by the device rather than triggered by the network. And in terms of user plane also, we become a little bit smarter and try to combine to optimize the transmit of the information and the data in the maximizing the bit per watt. So this has been already starting in the 5G Advanced with the release 19, 20, 18, 19, and 20. With the 21, we built on this foundation. So meaning that starting from the day one, any 6G device will immediately having this capability incorporated. And on top of this, we add some intelligence, right? We mentioned AI-based. So we would like to have a more dynamic and not static, more predictability, so we can predict when the traffic is going down. So when we can start switching off, for example, a beam in the massive MIMO without impacting the quality, or when I need to ramp up a cells, right, from the deepest deep because there is traffic coming. So we need to, AI will help us to balance properly between to keep the network as minimum as possible. Okay, so we can absolutely saving energy, but at the same time not losing traffic, so we to keep the network on. So that is where 6G will have much more intelligence, predictability, recoverability in order to make much more seamless. Is it sufficient? Oh, it's sufficient in a way that we may optimize the energy usage, but from sustainability point of view, would be sufficient? Not really. Because sustainability pay attention to the carbon emission. And everything we said there, yes, a carbon emission is a kind of side effect, is not the main target. So we need to go one step further, and we need to enter in this sustainability by design concept. So what I was saying, energy efficiency doesn't imply that you have a less energy consumption, because you may have the so-called rebound effect. So the less you cost, the more efficient you are, the more you consume. So then it means that you don't reduce the carbon emission. That is the final goal of the sustainability, the net zero target to any action is to reduce the carbon emission. So we need to implement some other element, some other mechanism in order to keep the network efficient, absolutely, but at the same time to reduce the carbon emission. So keep in mind, these are our final ultimate goal. So in order to do this, we need to go beyond to energy efficiency, and we need to introduce other factors that goes in other elements, cover horizontal or the network that allows to touch different moment in the 6G or in the network evolution. So we need to think about, okay, how I can optimize all the hardware I have already, how I can make the network very resilient and able to adapt to the climate change. Because every time you have an outage, you need to reinstall the services is energy that you threw away and the carbon emission that you produce for nothing, okay? You need to rely on AI, but not only in a different level. So you need to have an AI that helps to be more sustainable. So you can do predictability, you can flexibly to access or not switch on, switch off the different network. But at the same time, we need to be having an AI sustainable because, every time you use AI, you have energy to use. So we need to find the right trade-off. And at the same time, we need to have a responsible AI. So it means that they need to have a trustworthy and transparent AI data. And last but not least, everything needs to be based on value. KPI was the main driver for the previous generation. In this case, we want to turn and balance toward the value-based indicator. So the KPI and key VPI, oh my God, key VI, so the key value indicator that gives a social level indicator if the technology makes sense or not, if some deployment makes sense or not. So these are the 5 principles based on which we built the sustainability by design narrative. And of course, there are different, and now we go one by one. Let me see, a little bit faster. I just give you a flash on what does it mean, what we believe we need to do it, or which are the criticalities and what we need to address. And then, of course, if there is any question, we can follow up afterwards. Okay. So as I said, energy efficiency, okay, but not enough. So we need to focus on the carbon greenhouse gas emission. Okay, that is our absolutely final goal. Anywhere, so device as well as the full end-to-end network. So meaning that we need to understand, okay, let's assume that you have the maximum number of bits per watt and you're able to optimize properly the base station and the different services, but you need to make sure that you need to keep under control the rebound effect, as I said, to avoid to throw away all the saving. And at the same time, you need to have a proper understanding where the energy consumption and the carbon emission happens. Because you may have a different, if you are talking about a network, you know that where the end is the RAN, where the radio access, where there is a more energy intensity, while if you're talking about devices, is where you are producing the manufacturing on the devices. So each single network element has their own particular place where, or in the life cycle where you have higher energy consumption and higher carbon emission than any other. So that means that we need to have a tailored metrics in order to be able to identify where the carbon emission need to be reduced. So, and then we need to have a dedicated metrics because we cannot use the classical metrics, the kilogram or the millimeter we have that we've been using so far. We need to have some parameter, some way to assess how much I'm improving, how much I have created a benefit dedicated to telco design. At this, we go to the standardization, where we've been discussing with ITU-T and many other key standards in order to introduce a special power consumption model dedicated to ITU, telco models, telco systems, in order to have a global and harmonized methodologies that allows us to verify how much we are improving, how much one actions, one decision is going to improve or not such a situation. So you see, there are different elements. It's not only the efficiency, we need to have the carbon, how to measure the carbon emission, where it's going to be produced, and in which KPI we are going to use, and which standard will be recognized globally. But of course, this energy efficiency helps, based on Karen McCarthy Foundation analysis, to keep the global warming up to 2 degrees. But it's not enough. We need to, if we want to really keep below or maximum 1.5, we need to boost and we need to introduce another mechanism, the circular economy. And this now we are going to have a second pillar or second principle where we are considering the hardware efficiency. So because the hardware is where we are really, let's say, using we have a lot of embodied emission incorporated in the usage of the material and the hardware creation. So therefore, we must implement the circular concept in all the mechanisms, in any kind of product we are going to design. And at the same time, we have analyzed, starting from the final product in use, go back, a kind of reverse engineering, and to see that the best moment where we can introduce the concept of the recycling or the circular economy is at design of the product. Because how you set the structure, the architecture of the product, you can immediately incorporate some principle about modularity, scalability, shareability, or how much you can share. So all different capabilities that allows you to reuse, to maximize the usage of the material that you have in place. And of course, it's not only in you while you are using it, but you need to extend the time you're using that product. And so this is why we need to extend the so-called life cycle assessment. And if you know, you're familiar with the life cycle, there are different R, there are 9 R. So you can be recycling, repair, manufacturing, and so on and so on. So in this way, a single product that may be extended in terms of life can be used multiple times, and you can keep the material, you can reuse the same material, and you avoid a raw material. So that is absolutely a principle, and you see all the different market, different regulator bodies are really boosting and pushing for that kind of approach. And even India, okay, also, as I said, everywhere there are this attention to reuse the material that we have already available. And then, as I said, it's really important starting from the design, because the way you are producing a system, even how do you split a feature between core and radio, how you can allow to have a piece of software that you can upgrade without screwing the rest of the network element, how you can change a battery and make a new battery. So there are different levels that you can really optimize in order to minimize the material impact. After that, of course, you need to have a product that they stay a lot of in field that become very resilient and they need to be adapted to any changes is going to happen, either because you have disaster, climate change, or even may have a social political situation. So the more stand in field, the more resilient this need to be. So it means that this product need to have other factors, other characteristics on top of what we have just said. So we must have a product that absolutely integrated the capability to be resilient, to predict possible outage, so capable to interact with the network function, with the system management in order to recognize if there is any anomalies that can generate a possible outage. Because as I said, every time we have an outage, we need to ramp up the network, and then this energy that you throw away on top of the service discontinuation. And in case some outage or some out of service happens, very fast recovery. So that is one of the major actions that we are implementing already today. And the more we go ahead, the more we start incorporating this predictability. And at the same time, this predictability goes hand in hand with the traffic allocation, because when you are in the crisis mode, you need to guarantee some service continuation, and you need to start having this prioritization that allows you to guarantee a dedicated, a specific social quality. So that is also another place to influence the overall systems. Of course, security, okay, is part of this one. It could be hardware security, so cannot be touched, or other security that you can imagine. And the last but not least, also the famous 2 degrees I mentioned. I don't know if you are familiar with the different rollout time, or when you are outsider, there are some conditions in which the product, not necessarily a base station, but any product, it's guaranteed to work, right? You have a temperature range. Of course, if the temperature goes up, the product must be more resilient and capable to cope with a warmer situation, or more humidity, or different temperature and weather condition. And this needs to be incorporated in the design now for facing the next 15 years. So that is something that, again, other layer that we need to think about how to put together. AI helps, absolutely, because you see how many different variables you need to count together in order to make a very flexible network capable to cope with so many different scenarios, and at the same time reduce the carbon emission. Absolutely, AI will come in and help us. So in this way, is able to make the proper judgment when you can make some change, adjustment in order to optimize the outcome. However, every time you use AI, there is a cost behind, cost in terms of energy. So we need to be honest with ourselves. We need to have a proper accuracy per watt. What does it mean? If my software that runs 1 week generate 1% accuracy more, okay, do we really need to do it? Do we need to have an training for 3 months for 2% improvement? Maybe it's not worth it. So it's you need to be honest. We need to have a sustainable AI. So we need to find the right trade-off between having a good outcome, an improvement output, at the same time considering the carbon emission that you are, and the water usage that the AI will require. Of course, this is given that it must be trustworthy and need to be compliant. In particular, in Europe, there is a huge pressure with the European AI Act, where you must have a very transparent usage of AI and the data you're using it. So need to be capable to understand the source of the data. So that is important. Then, of course, AI need to be also, we already touched, that helps in general. So the AI for sustainability. So we have already touched in the previous, with the AI for example, energy efficiency. And last but not least, think about the digital twins. We touched a little bit when we were talking about 5G, has been talking many times with the digital twins in other scenarios with different use cases, but with the 6G can also seen as a possible way to optimize and reduce the carbon emission, because you may simulate some scenarios with your digital twin solutions, and you recognize that you may increase the energy consumption, or you reduce the energy consumption, but you have a rebound effect, so you increase the emission, or you may have some analytics improve just 1% after I don't know how many changes. So that in this way can help us to detect some perfect fine-tuning, a trade-off between the energy consumption, carbon emission, and the result. Last but not least, the value. Value is very important. As I said, we should stop, I don't say should stop is this, but we should be careful or pay attention to have just a technology for the sake of technology, but should be a technology that helps the society to improve, to progress. And this is one of the main targets of 6G. So as I said, we are working based on key value indicators that gives not only a better performance in terms of technology, but even a help how to develop in terms of environment, economic, the social value. We should minimize the gaps across the different regions, from high developed countries and less developed countries. We should help people or regions that are in the remote, where usually there is no economics to have a normal rollout to interact with the famous social satellite, so we can deliver a coverage. We should be able to have a very high precise location, even though you don't have a GPS, because sometimes it happens that you don't have a GPS. We should be able to allow people to grow in terms of economics and health, even you are not absolutely in the middle of the downtown or the most biggest city. So that is why 6G should be able to address the sustainable development goals starting from the day one, and not just only when you are lucky because you have already 5G or you are living in a very high developed city. So these are the 5 principles, and we try to walk the talk a little bit. And in Europe, we have been doing with the European Union this funded project, so-called Sustain 6G, where we have 24 partners and over, you see, 10 European countries, and where we try to apply all this principle to 3 major use cases. So the agriculture, the e-health, and the smart grid, because are the most critical important for our continent. Nevertheless, we can absolutely expand and apply to any other market. Where we are, it's a 2.5 project. We started in 2024 and is going to end in July, September 27. We have already done some technical specification, and we enter now in some proof of concept and validation of our story. So this is where we recombine the principle, and we combine how we can have a sustainable 6G economically and environmentally, and provide 6G for the sustainability. Of course, as I said, we cannot do everything under 3GPP. 3GPP doesn't have any mandate to do all these methodologies and other. 3GPP is 3GPP, absolutely okay. But we need to now wider our understanding of standardization, and we need to start talking about, for example, ITUT, where the methodology to assess a life cycle assessment for telecommunication has been designed, where there are the circular economies being designed, where the digital path has been designed. So we need to now link and create this collaboration across standards in order to deliver a 6G that is measurable from environmental point of view. And I see that there are also other standards that can help to, let's say, take this IoT global and maybe to mirror over the local market and the local needs. Summarizing, I try to map a little bit between these 5 principles and a document that has been designed by you, right? This toward green sustainable 6G. So, and I realized that even though we started from 2 different angles, we are really a lot of common principle, common common target, we have reached a similar conclusion. And as you see, there are almost one-to-one between principle 1 and 2 and 5, so the energy, the hardware, the value. And we may extend a little bit, adding the resiliency and the AI sustainability in the different formats. But I say that also the KPI, you have been realizing that we need to extend the number of KPI and the way you are measure the system, not only in terms of kilowatt per hour or millisecond, but there are other KPI that must be incorporated in order to have a measure a 6G sustainable system. That was very rewarding in a way to see that we are thinking alike, and hopefully if we can join effort, we can be able to be successful. So a call for action to everyone, very, very quickly. So please keep, of course, having energy saving in mind, energy efficiency, but do not forget the carbon emission, because it's where we have impact on the environment. And therefore, we need to also align with ITUT or SBTI, that is a particular body that helps to measure the journey and improvement toward the net zero. Please think about, when you have a product, how to expand the life cycle of this product in different formats. Could be sharing, could be you can repair, you can remodel, you can repurpose, no matter. Important that we can really expand the life cycle. Think about how 6G, or in general the technology, can really be resilient for the next climate change, because we need to be honest, is happening. Okay, 6G is part of absolutely important for making a network capable to predict and activate some actions in order to prevent many and prevent outage and optimize situation. But at the same time, we need to be disciplined and honest with ourselves. That makes no sense to have AI everywhere. And last but not least, let's make a technology that is really helping the society to improve. So all in all, 6G, it's a net zero enabler. Remember, to 2030, 2045. So the next 15 years is crucial for reach the net zero target. We have 5 fundamental, could be 6, it could be 7, who knows, maybe the more we go ahead, the better we can design which are the major principles to have an holistic sustainability approach. And last but not least, as I said, we have a lot in front of us, and we can do together to reach a better, let's say, target together. Okay, that is everything from me. I don't know if I'm in time. Hopefully, yes. I can stop sharing.
Thank you. Thank you for, yeah. So thank you very much. Deliberately, I am not making on my video, and you can see the questions on public chat. The first one is by Sabina. How quickly can a sleeping network wake up? Can you just see the
Okay.
public chat? There is a
Yes,
left
I look at
side.
the private. Okay. I was reading from the bottom to the up. Okay.
If you see the left side, there is a public chat.
Yes. Okay. How quick can a sleep network wake up? Oh, yes. This is one of the key factor. We may in the previous generation we had 2 seconds. Now we are matter of millisecond. Yes, it depends on 5G and 6G has different reaction time. It is why AI it's play a key role, because AI is able also to recognize when the traffic might happen or comes, so can activate the network earlier and not waiting for the traffic be on the side. So that is absolutely something that is it was the weak spot of the current let's say actions mechanism, but with 6G we will neutralize that.
in
What percent reduction in total run site energy consumption target? What does it mean, the questions? What are the percent reduction in total run site energy consumption does it target? We don't have a target. I don't okay, let's say we need to reduce the energy, let's say the carbon emission without impacting the quality. You can also switch off completely the base station. Absolutely, yes. But then is exactly what we want? No, we want to optimize the consumption and to minimize the carbon emission to keep it the same quality, the same performances. That is the trade-off. And we have different scenarios. You may have high, low traffic, rural area in the downtown. So there is no one unique answer, Sabina. All are invited. Good afternoon. Thank you. As 6G evolves towards sustainable intelligent network, what challenges remain unsolved, and where do you think student and young innovation? Good question. Okay, what remain unsolved? Let's first see which are the outcome of the first releases. Okay, I would say that all the different topics are well known. The major focus today is on energy efficiency and energy reductions, because was the major drivers also for the previous technologies. What we do not have, and where you may help, is to modeling the consumption of AI in a network. So what we are doing now is to design a methodologies that is able to measure the AI impact and the AI environmental impact in a system. So if you have AI on the system, not necessarily 6G, could be or 5G, could be a fiber optics 6G, whatever, you have AI. So today we are designing a methodologies to measure the end-to-end energy emission and environmental impact, because it's not only when you have the software running, you need to consider even when you go to take the raw material to design the server while you have the software running. You need to design to calculate when you are training your software. You need to consider when you are having the after usage during the usage of your software. And there are different ways you can measure the environmental impact. That is happening, but we may need to also have a model to measure properly, to use for creating these methodologies, and we don't have yet. What else? Okay. So interactions, okay, do you think, okay, quantum computing. We have been working a lot of cybersecurity on quantum computing. So 6G has a strong, there is a stream dedicated to the quantum computing cybersecurity that is already under the specification, because of course, the moment you have a quantum computing in place, everything will be open. So 6G, because of these very long windows, must be already robust to that possible situation. That is where we are working on today, currently, on 6G. What does it mean AI native communication? Actually, engineer implementing level? No, it's not only implementing level, it's really also in the standardization. So we need to make sure that we are able to incorporate the AI mechanism everywhere, not only afterwards. How I can say, if you have a scheduling, the schedule works based on AI. No, you don't have a schedule and then you add AI on top. You have highlighted sustainability as a first-class design objective in 6G. How will we actually measure whether a 6G technology is sustainable? Okay, depends. It's one of the open points we have. There are different level of how you measure a sustainability. Okay, there are level. Let's say the king, the king is carbon emission because that is the root cause for everything. But then when you have AI, you may also measure the water, or you may consider the land when you have a data center, or you may consider the device when you have a device and new devices or the battery. So it's really, there is no one answer for any is that one only answer to 6G technology sustainable. Let's say that all in all, if I want to be creative, with 6G and without 6G, we should increase the carbon emission in total. That would be let's say the extreme way to measure if the 6G technology would be sustainable or not. How significant will not terrestrial network satellite apps be in 6G ecosystem? What opportunity? Okay, that is part of the 6G. So the communication, the device to satellite communication is very important. So it's part of the 6G, absolutely. So what an engineer student can do, what we need to do is a simulation, how to make sure that there are different scenarios and they become a very, let's say, not too expensive, need to be affordable, need to be resilient. You should work not only under the satellite with a 2,000 euro device, should be accessible to all the people in needs, and they should be resilient. Today, if you go maybe in a bridge, under the bridge, you don't have any more the coverage, or you may have some condition where you have a problem. So that is where the communication per se is there. It's everything else that must be very robust to make a mass deployment. Can you make a consortium of CG use cases in defense sector? Why not? I don't know. In the defense sector. You can make it. Where do you want to do it? In India? Do you want to do in Europe? It's a little bit wider question.
So, Francesca, there is one more question because we are end of time, and
Yes.
we can take one more question in the chat, which is from Venkat.
Switching off low traffic will be the maximum saving, I suppose, related to saving much. But I see the comment. Indeed, switching on low traffic, you can save a lot if you switch off. That is no discussion, right? But where it's a tricky point is to switch off without impacting the performance. That is the key factor. So every scenario has different threshold, and the AI will help us to define the right threshold to optimize the energy consumption / carbon emission reductions and keeping the performance as needed, as committed.
So, thank you for today's session. So, from Bharat 6G Alliance, I would like to conclude today's session and propose vote of thanks. I would really sincerely express a heartfelt thanks to our distinguished speaker for today, Ms. Francesca Sartori, Head of
Thank you for you.
Sustainability Research and Standardization at Nokia, for sharing her valuable insights. So the session gave us an important perspective on how sustainability needs to be embedded by design into 6G. And it has to be sustainable from day one, as you have echoed this message. So, Patak sir, do you want to add on comments? Now I can see you there. Or shall I continue? Okay. There is
No,
some.
thank you very much for joining.
Okay,
Uh,
I will continue with my vote of thanks. So I am really thanks once again to you for your slides has been very pretty impressive. A lot of information and how to best put the sustainability into the giving the five principles and giving a clear framework, giving all the insights which revolve around the sustainability. And it's a very important example which you gave in the opening that was very good. And this very much echo with the Bharat 6G Alliance sustainability drivers as well. So this gave us a shared language and a strong foundation for collaboration. So finally concluding, thank you all. Thank you to our chairman, to our members, to our DG sir, Mr. Rajesh Kumar Patak sir, to our team, Bharat 6G Alliance team, Faisal and Swapnil, to the C dot team for facilitating this platform, to Vinay for guiding us and providing and helping us to have this webinar. We were able to organize this webinar. And thank you all the participants for your questions. It has been a very great time today. Thank you. Thank you once again, Francesca, for being here and sharing your expertise and perspectives. We look forward for further collaboration. Thank you all for joining. Have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you.
See you. Bye bye. Ciao.
Okay. Bye.